CSK found some of their mojo back in this innings against Delhi Capitals. They've carried on momentum from their last win against the Sunrisers, and they certainly added towards the end of this innings. But is 179 going to be enough? We'll find out. We'll get Ajit Agarkar's thoughts as well on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket Footy 20 Timeout powered by Dell. Ajit, nice little finish by Ravindra Jadeja, and they managed, 57 runs in those last 4 overs, Raidu and Jadeja. Would you take that if you were CSK, 179 at halftime?
I think very much take that. After those last couple of overs, more than the last 4, I think really good finish by Jadeja. And Raidu, obviously, really good innings again. It looks a very good pitch, so I think that's gettable. But CSK needed those extra 10, 15, maybe even 20 runs. I think it looked about 160, 165 at one point, and they've managed to set themselves a score, which gives them a little bit more of a cushion to defend. So yeah, they'd be very happy going in. Although I don't think it's an above par score. I think it's just about par, and it's a gettable score on that ground.
Right. Now 179. Jadeja has to be, I think, the first story that we discuss. Seems to have significant improvement in just Jadeja, the batsman. Maybe even a case now to come up ahead of MS Dhoni regularly in that CSK batting lineup.
I'm not so sure. I think it might just depend if a leg spinner and a left arm spinner is bowling and you want to send a left hander in. But there is you can see the improvement, not just now, but over the last couple of seasons now. Maybe captain should start trusting him a bit more. I think people still want him to bat at number 6 and 7. I'm not quite sure whether he can bat above MS Dhoni yet. But there might be certain situations that he is used above MS Dhoni, or sometimes even above Raidu if a left-hander is needed. But that will be situational at the moment. I think what you're getting from him down the order is just as good, because if you can get him in a situation where he can bat as freely as he did today, we can see what kind of talent he has.
Yeah, we're seeing, I think, game after game at Sharjah that it's probably not the Sharjah of the first week or 10 days of the IPL. 171 was chased off the last ball in that bizarre Kings 11 RCB match. So I don't know what 179 would do. But Akshar Patel seemed to have a very tidy spell of 4 overs, whereas Ashwin, who was a standout bowler in that last game that Delhi played here, didn't quite have the same day. Can you make sense of that?
Yeah, probably 2 right-handers batting against him. Ball turning into him, and although Ashwin has his bag of tricks, it's never easy. With Akshar Patel, the ball's turning away from the right-handers, so whatever little grip there is on the surface, it still looks a very good surface to me. I think couple of games before, or the last couple of games in Sharjah, it has looked a little bit on the slower side. We saw at the end, especially with really 2 good bowlers or 2 bowlers in good form, runs were still scored of them because they weren't sure of the slow balls into the pitch. So looks a good pitch, but Akshar Patel just keeps slipping under the radar all the time. Such an underrated player at this point. Just keep doing the job every time he's given an opportunity, and he's become such a critical part of this Delhi lineup, especially in those middle overs. Didn't get a wicket today, but still very, very economical.
Yeah, no wickets, but he keeps it tidy. Akshar Patel hasn't had a particularly bad game in this season just yet. Can't say about Faf du Plessis. He's had a couple of low scores, but back in form today, or back among the runs today, a 4th half century this season. Has he in some ways exceeded expectations on how good Faf du Plessis has been for CSK this season, Ajit?
Yeah, possibly. And he's batted a couple of different positions. So, that can't be easy either, but he's looked, I think he's, at least for the first bit of the tournament, he's the one who's carried them. There've been quite a few players who've not been quite in form. Raidu getting a 50 and then missing out through injury. So there's been a little bit of disruption, which we don't normally see with Chennai Super Kings. And he's, out of all that, he's the one guy who's stood through it all. So clearly came into it. I don't want to say good form because no one's had cricket before this, but clearly one of those guys who was a lot more confident than some of the other guys and hit the ground running. So again, a good innings from him. And at the top of the order, especially after you lose a early wicket, you need that sort of innings which holds the innings, and then you have your power hitters towards the end who get the job done. So very important innings for himself, and the form carries on for him from where he started.
Yeah, between that nasty collision with him and Rabada, any guesses on who came off better after that collision?
Yeah, what a surprise. I mean, he did look winded. I mean, Faf's a very fit, strong guy.
Yeah.
And he actually ran into Rabada, and almost like a tackle. But clearly didn't come off well, and he was in discomfort, almost selflessly at times tried to go after the bowling. He realized it was the moment where he had to hit boundaries and perish. But again, an important knock, because uh, and the way he batted at that point, where he tried to go after almost everything, was good for CSK, because they have a long enough batting lineup. Kedar Jadhav is in that lineup. There's Bravo there as well. So they needed that, and they got the finish that they needed. But
Hmm.
again, a very good innings from Faf.
Yeah, Rabada, we'll leave the last few overs out. We'll come back to that discussion whether Delhi could have bowled a bit better. But Rabada has now gone, 22 games on the trot with taking a wicket at least one game. I don't know if that's an understated achievement in some ways, Ajit, because even the best of bowlers tend to have maybe a good day like Akshar Patel did today and not get a wicket. But Rabada just gets you a wicket every single time.
Yeah, and important wickets. I mean, generally top order wickets, generally guys who are set, because he always either attacks with the new ball or comes in the middle when there's a partnership, and obviously finishes off at the end, which is such a difficult period to bowl. And in spite of that last over, he's given just 33
Hmm.
of his four. So, I mean, world class performer really, and in all formats, and knows his game so well. Affords Delhi, or lets Delhi play two seamers. I mean, two guys who've been in good form, but very few teams can actually afford to play two overseas seamers, because they are both so good, and Rabada obviously leading the pack.
And Anrik Nokke bowling alongside him, just getting better and better with each game. How much is bowling with Rabada in a full season of top flight IPL cricket or top T20 cricket helping Anrik Nokke?
I'm sure it is. I mean, there is no doubt it helps when you're playing for a settled team. Okay, after Rishabh's injury, there's been a few changes to that team, but till then, there was a settled sort of 11, maybe 12 players that were used. And when a team is winning, the transition, or that thing that settle in the team is a lot easier. But you've got to have quality. I mean, we've seen that battle of him with Butler in the previous game. Uh, Tells you all you need to about the quality of Nokia as well. Bowling in high pressure situations, game after game, day after day, is only going to make him better, because the quality is there. And again, he's another guy who's adjusted to the demands of T20 cricket so easily, because plays so much of red ball cricket for South Africa, that it sometimes can be a little bit difficult when you change formats. But he's adjusted it beautifully.
Right? Could they bowl better at the death?
If you have to be really critical, probably get all Yorkers spot on, which never is easy. It's a small ground as well. There were a couple which hit the lower part of the bat and just went over the boundary. On maybe in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, you get caught, but you've got to accept that in Sharjah. So yeah, there were a couple of high full tosses which we've not seen too much of from these two guys. But also, what it tells me was they were not very keen to bowl slow balls into the pitch. I think one was dispatched by Raidu over square leg, which Rabara tried a leg cutter, if I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. So if it's not sticking in the pitch, that's good. That's good news for Delhi Capitals, uh, because Chennai obviously depend on their variations and slow bowlers. If it's not sticking in the pitch, and these guys have had to revert to the good old Yorker, that's good sign for Delhi. And it's a hard thing to bowl six good Yorkers. Doesn't matter how good a bowler you are. It takes a lot out of you. It's probably the most difficult ball to bowl, and the margin for error is very little, and more so in Sharjah.
Yeah, scorecard will say 1 for 39 for Tushar Deshpande, but from what you've seen of him, and you've seen a lot more of him than just in this IPL, you like what you see?
Yeah, very impressive. I think to come sort of midway through that tournament, again, Delhi have been looking for that ideal third seamer is. They started with Mohit Sharma, then got Ishant for a game or two, then had Harshal Patel. So they've been looking for that sort of link. Obviously he's shown talent. I know he's got a bit of pace. Speeds might not be over 140 or high 140s, but he certainly is a lot quicker than, or skiddier than you expect. Bowls a good Yorker, and these games will help his confidence. He'll keep getting better, and if he can keep himself fit, he's got the skill sets to succeed in T20 cricket. Bowled with a new ball today, which was again impressive, that the team starts trusting you so quickly. So hopefully he can keep growing in confidence, because that could be the link that, or missing link, that Delhi were looking in terms of the third seamer.
Yeah, maybe if he bowled in another franchise, he'd seem a lot quicker in a franchise which didn't have a Rabada and a Nokke bowling alongside him.
It always helps. It always
Yeah.
helps in a settled team plus two world class performers who are at the top of their game at this point. So, yeah, it does. So hopefully he can learn from those two on how they go about in different situations. Can only help his game.
All right. Now, one thing we don't get to see when the Capitals bowl is whether a wrist spinner would have greater effect or impact on this surface. CSK have got one in Karan Sharma. Do you fancy him playing a bigger role in this, or is this not quite the same surface we've seen in the last couple of games in Sharjah? Is it a lot easier to bat on this one?
Uh, Compared to the last 2 or 3 games, I think it seems that way. We'll have to
Yeah.
wait till both teams bowl on it. Like you said, wrist spinners are different. They obviously impart a bit more on the ball than the finger spinners, so they might get a bit more purchase, but it doesn't seem to be holding as much in this pitch. And if there is a little bit of dew around, then that will only make a life lot easier for Delhi Capitals. We'll have to wait and see once the spinners bowl. But if it does start gripping the surface, then suddenly this becomes a huge score.
Now, with Prithvi Shaw and Shikhar Dhawan, in the last couple of games since Ajinkya Rahane has been drafted into this team, they've lost an early wicket in both those matches. So you can expect Rahane as the obvious number three, given how early those wickets have fallen. But let's assume that they do get off to a start. Does that then result in a decision of pushing Ajinkya Rahane lower down with Shreyas and Stoinis and the other informed guys coming in?
Yeah, I have no doubt they would. I mean, look at
Hmm.
that batting order after Ajinkya, and that's the tricky part, and that's the difficult part at the moment. Capitals are finding they don't have too many guys or Indian batsmen in that spot to fit in that 11. Ajinkya Rahane has got the experience, and they want to try and back him, but he does bat in the top of the order. So
Hmm.
if they do get off to a start, I expect Shreyas Iyer to come at number three and followed by either Carey or Stoinis, depending on what the situation is. Uh, if they lose a wicket, it's obvious that Rahane walks in, but I'm sure they'll make that decision. I think there's some smart heads in that dugout who will make that decision and not let the game drift.
What's the say halftime chat for Dhoni to his bowlers? It's a very different type of bowling lineup. These two teams, no outright pacer in the CSK side. They have a spinner which Delhi don't. If you're a Shardul and a Sam Curran and a Deepak Chahar, what's the ideal way to bowl on this? If you're saying it's not holding into the surface as much as it was.
Look, no matter what, it's a new white ball. Deepak Chahar, we've seen if there is some swing to extract, he will extract that. He's got a beautiful release. He can actually move the ball both ways. If that happens, he's always a handful. I don't think they'll do anything different. In fact, this is the situation they thrive in. Put runs on the board. MS Dhoni then likes to control with his slightly slower bowlers in the middle of the innings. But for that, they'll need a good start. So both Sam Curran and Deepak Chahar like to swing the ball. So they'd be hoping there's a little bit of swing on offer. And I don't think you necessarily need out and out quick bowler on this surface. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, perhaps. Here, your variations might be a bit more handy, and unless you're someone like a Rabada or a Jofra Archer or a Bumrah, uh,
Hmm.
those are sort of unique bowlers. But other than that, extra pace, I don't think Chennai are going to miss any extra pace on this pitch. I don't think yet.
Yeah, I mean the Capitals managed to defend 184 comfortably, which you can say now is a different surface. In the last game, Punjab and Bangalore 171 didn't seem to be enough. This is somewhere in the middle of that. So what's the gut feel, Ajit? Delhi to get this or Chennai to defend it?
I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a winning total.
Hmm.
Uh, can Delhi get this? I'm not sure either. It's
Yeah, this
I
new
mean,
look Delhi batting lineup isn't
yeah,
quite.
that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I think the loss of Rishabh Pant is a massive one for them because they've had to make two changes for it,
yeah.
and suddenly it looks a bit different. If they get, it'll be a hell of a chase if they get there because this will be their true test. I think they've played well throughout this competition. They've obviously batted a lot of the time first, winning games, but
Hmm.
this will be the true test because if they don't get off to a really good start, I think MS Dhoni will create enough pressure where they make mistakes.
All right, thank you very much, Ajit Agarkar. It's a massive 2 points for the Chennai Super Kings, given where they are on the points table. It's an opportunity after getting some runs and winning the toss to try and nick them off the Delhi Capitals, who continue to have this batting lineup without Pant and Hetmeyer. So we'll see how this chase goes and get Ajit's post-match thoughts on Whirlpool presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout, powered by Dell.